So you're here because, like us, you've been captivated by the case of Aniah Blanchard.
Um, yeah, I think everyone wants to know what happened to her. It's
Just heartbreaks.
absolutely just a young woman full of life and then just vanishes.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to try and unpack today, the mystery surrounding her disappearance. We're calling this a deep dive
Deep dive.
into the case using an article from Investor titled The Disappearance of Aniah Blanchard, a heartbreaking story of love, fear, and family strength.
Okay.
What gets me about this case is how you have this vibrant young woman. Aniah was 19 years old.
A college student.
Right, a college student, and everyone describes her as just so caring and so full of joy.
Yeah, that really comes across in the article.
She just seemed to have this really positive impact on everyone around her, especially her stepfather, UFC fighter Walt Harris.
Oh, yeah, their bond was incredibly strong.
Right.
Anaya was really a source of strength for Walt, especially after his tough fights.
It's amazing to think about a world-class fighter finding solace and motivation in his stepdaughter.
It really speaks volumes about their relationship.
For sure. And then she vanishes on October 23, 2019, and the details surrounding that night are just so baffling.
Okay, so set the scene for us. What do we know about the night Anaya disappeared?
Okay, so she had been at a funeral with her brother Elijah,
Yeah.
and they drove back to Auburn together.
Mm-hmm.
She dropped him off around 11 p.m.,
Okay.
and then this is where it gets murky.
Right.
So before they parted ways, Anaya and Walt had this really emotional goodbye, and Walt later said he had this feeling of unease,
Oh, wow. So he had a bad feeling.
almost like a premonition.
Like something wasn't right. Yeah, that sends chills down my spine.
Yeah, and then there's the text message that Anaya sent to her roommate, Sarah.
Right, the smoke in a blunt text.
Yeah, she mentions she's with this guy named Eric, someone she just met.
And that really stands out because we know how cautious Anaya was, like she was actually afraid of being kidnapped.
Yeah, the article mentions she would always share her location with Sarah and constantly check her surroundings.
So it's strange that she would meet someone new and immediately engage in that kind of activity.
It does seem out of character.
It raises the question, was she coerced? Or did she misjudge the situation somehow?
Yeah, I mean, that text could hold some really important clues.
For sure, the investigators would be looking into that.
And the crazy thing is, that text was the last anyone heard from Anaya. Her phone went dark after that message.
So that's the last trace of her.
Yeah, and as the hours go by and morning arrives, things start to get really scary.
Oh, I bet.
Anaya's mom, Angela, she tries to FaceTime her.
Mm-hmm.
It was something they did every morning. But Anaya doesn't answer.
And then,
And then her roommate, Sarah, realizes that Anaya didn't show up for her babysitting job.
oh no, she was supposed to be babysitting.
Yeah, and Anaya was always so responsible, she never missed work.
Right, so that's when the alarm bells really start ringing.
Exactly. It was so unlike her to just disappear.
So what happened next?
So Sarah calls Anaya's brother, Elijah, and they start frantically searching for her.
Can you imagine the feeling of helplessness they must have felt? Every minute that passed without any news would have just amplified their fear.
And for Walt, this wasn't just another missing person case. It was his stepdaughter, someone he was incredibly close to.
Right.
The article says that he immediately put his UFC career on hold to focus on finding Aniah.
Wow. He's at the top of his game and he drops everything to find his stepdaughter.
It shows how much he loved her.
Absolutely. And as the search intensified, the whole community rallied around the family.
Yeah, it's amazing how people come together in times of tragedy.
That's a real testament to the human spirit.
There were search teams, law enforcement working around the clock, volunteers pouring in, everyone hoping to find Aniah safe.
A glimmer of hope in a really dark time.
But as the days turn into weeks, the hope starts to fade, and the case takes a truly heartbreaking turn.
What do you mean?
Well, the lack of any leads to the silence surrounding Aniah's disappearance. It all points to something really bad happening.
It makes you think, doesn't it? What can we do to protect ourselves and the people we love?
It's a question that haunts all of us, I think.
Yeah, for sure. But we'll delve into that more in part 2 of this deep dive.
We'll discuss some practical tips and explore the importance of awareness and vigilance.
Right, because ultimately knowledge is our greatest defense.
Join us next time as we continue to explore the unsettling disappearance of Aniah Blanchard.
And we'll also uncover more about the investigation and the suspects who emerged.
We'll examine the evidence, the theories, and the unanswered questions that still linger in this heartbreaking case.
Don't miss it.
It's just terrifying to think about what might have been going through Sarah and Elijah's minds as they searched for Aniah.
Oh, absolutely. Every passing hour, the fear and uncertainty must have been unbearable.
And you have to remember, Walt was in the middle of training for a huge UFC fight.
Right. He was supposed to be fighting for the heavyweight title.
And he just drops everything to join the search for Aniah.
That's incredible.
He was completely devoted to finding his stepdaughter.
I mean, think about it. This guy is a world-renowned athlete at the peak of his career, and he puts it all on hold to find Aniah.
It really highlights the depth of their relationship.
Yeah, it's clear that this was way more than just a family obligation for him. It was personal.
It was a mission fueled by love and desperation.
And as the search for Aniah intensifies, the whole community rallies around the family.
Yeah, you see this amazing outpouring of support, complete strangers coming together to help.
It's really heartwarming to see.
There were search parties, organized law enforcement, working tirelessly, volunteers from all over coming to help.
Everyone united by this common goal of finding Aniah.
It's in these moments of tragedy that you really see the best of humanity.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, compassion and empathy can shine through.
But as the days stretched into weeks, that initial hope started to dwindle.
Yeah, the lack of any concrete leads the silence surrounding Aniah's disappearance. It all painted a very grim picture.
And that's when the case takes this even more heartbreaking turn.
What do you mean?
Well, the realization starts to set in that despite all her precautions, Aniah might have become a victim of something truly sinister.
That's a terrifying thought.
It shatters that sense of security, not just for her family, but for the entire community.
Right, it makes you realize that these tragedies can happen to anyone.
Yeah, it forces us to confront some really uncomfortable questions about our own safety and the safety of our loved ones.
It's a wake-up call for all of us, urging us to be more vigilant, to trust our instincts, and to never take our safety for granted.
It makes you think about all those everyday interactions, those chance encounters we often dismiss as insignificant.
Right, like could one of those seemingly harmless moments actually harbor a hidden danger?
That's the unsettling reality of this case. It highlights the unpredictable nature of life, how a normal day can take a dark turn in an instant.
And that feeling of vulnerability, that realization that none of us are truly immune to such tragedies, that's what makes Aniah's story resonate so deeply with people.
Absolutely. It's a story that stays with you long after you hear it. So it really makes you think, what can we do to protect ourselves and the people we care about?
It's a tough question, a question we all grapple with.
Yeah.
While we can't eliminate risk entirely, there are definitely steps we can take to be safer.
Like what kind of steps?
Well, Aniah's case really underscores the importance of awareness. Being aware of your surroundings, trusting your gut feeling,
Right.
and having open communication with loved ones, like letting someone know where you're going, who you're with.
Sharing your location.
Exactly. Those small acts can actually make a big difference.
They can be crucial.
Yeah, they create a timeline that can be invaluable in an investigation if something were to happen.
And it's not just about practical measures. Right? It's also about cultivating that sense of awareness.
Absolutely. Vigilance, but not paranoia.
Right. Not being afraid, but being informed and prepared.
Exactly. And I think Aniah's story, though, tragic, it can serve as a wake-up call for all of us.
It makes you realize that bad things can happen even to those who are cautious.
It's a sobering thought, but it's also empowering in a way.
How so?
Because it reminds us that we have a role to play in our own safety and the safety of our community.
We're not just passive bystanders.
Right. It's about fostering a culture of looking out for one another.
So if you see something,
Yes.
say something.
Exactly. If something feels off, if someone seems vulnerable, we have a responsibility to speak up, to intervene, to offer help.
It takes a village.
It really does. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious, has exploring Aniah's case changed your perspective on personal safety at all?
It has. It's reinforced for me the idea that knowledge is power.
I agree. The more we understand about the potential risks, the better equipped we are to navigate them.
And Aniah's story is a powerful reminder that vigilance, awareness, preparedness, these aren't just abstract concepts.
They're essential tools for navigating our world.
Well said. And while Aniah's case is filled with heartbreak and unanswered questions, it also reminds us of some really important things.
Like what?
The importance of family, the strength of community, and the enduring power of hope.
The hope that someday justice will be served and Aniah's loved ones will find the answers they're searching for.
It's all we could hope for. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the disappearance of Aniah Blanchard.
It's been a really insightful conversation.
Her story is a stark reminder that while we can never be completely immune to tragedy, we can choose to live with awareness, courage, and a commitment to looking out for one another.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself.
We'll be back next time with another deep dive into a captivating case. Until then, stay safe out there.